people around the world. And we do honor their ancestry, their heritage, and their gifts, and all of these peoples and all of these nations. But we also support, there's 94 recommendations in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission for Canada. And we hope that we can act as allies in realizing recommendations such as one about eliminating educational and employment gaps. So the purpose today, though, is to talk about learning opportunities, particularly for Lesotho-based architectural technologists, and also to talk about a bridging program into Masters of Architecture programs. And Chris was kind enough to send me some questions as well, and I've answers to all of these things into the presentation. But I'm going to number of different things, explain to you what Athabasca University is, explain a little bit about the Center for Architecture, then talk about the opportunity and how it would work. But I also want to take a little bit of time to talk about the future of architectural education as things are changing and changing dramatically. One of your first questions might be, well, maybe what is Athabasca or where is Athabasca? But Athabasca is actually a town in the province of Alberta in Canada. It's located about there in Canada. And Canada is a very peculiar country. The 70% of us live below that red line there. So, and then 90% of us live within 100 miles of the American border. So pretty much this is a country where the population is all along the southern edge, and there's a vast amount of the country where there's not a lot of people. There are people, it's all inhabited, but it's not a lot. And just for comparison, you can see on the right side of your screen, that's it's not perfectly to scale, but that's about the size of Lesotho compared to the size of Canada. So it's a very peculiar country, ours. But Athabasca is a physical place, and we do actually have a campus with physical buildings, which you can see here. And we've been doing this for about 50 years, half a century. But we're open, and that's really important. That's the most important thing about our university. If you're 16 years of age or older, you can pursue a course, any of our undergraduate courses, if you would like. And it's digital by design, which I think is a really important thing. When the pandemic hit, many people were cutting and pasting courses online, but our courses are designed from the beginning to be online. So we actually have 850 courses in 21 programs. And we have a lot of collaborative agreements with a wide variety of organizations. And we have 45,000 students now in 84 countries around the world. And this is important too. 92, almost all of our graduates are employed. You can see that 92.5%. That's partly due to the fact, though, and I have to be honest, is that many people who are working take courses with us because that's convenient for them to do. But there are some advantages to doing what we do. We often use e-textbooks instead of physical textbooks, and this is important. You can study and complete your coursework whenever, wherever. So it's very flexible. And as I say, admission is non-competitive. You just have to be 16 years old to take a class with us, and they never fill up. And you can begin them on the first day of each month, every month, except for our studios. Our design studios are offered just 3 times a year. And we've been online. We've been in operation for 50 years, but online for 25 of those years, or about half. And Chris asked about how many students are from Africa at Athabasca. And here you can see, as of yesterday, we ran the numbers, and this is the numbers that we have. So Nigeria and South Africa, we have the most students there. There's not a huge number of students, but we are represented in many different countries. So these are the key characteristics. It's open, it's flexible, it's global, and it's online. And just so you know, I'm sharing with you in the background of many of my slides, examples of student work from our studios. Now, within Athabasca University, we have the Center for Architecture, which was formed in 2012, and it's a partnership with the Royal Architectural Institute of Canada. And now we have about 700 unique students who take courses or do things with us every year. And it's totally online. So what we're trying to do, though, is be inclusive, accessible, and comprehensive, but global as well. And we have a couple of research themes which are very important to us. Regenerative design is more than being sustainable. The definition of regenerative design as provided by the Living Futures Institute is that it's got to be ecologically restorative, but also socially just and culturally rich. And those are three things that go together. And if you don't have one of them, you can't really do the others as well. But we're also very interested in the future of education and virtual education in particular. I'm going to show you some of the simulations that we do and how we're working with AI, but we're also moving towards the Internet of Things. So we have a number of degree programs. We have a Bachelor of Science, which has 7 studios and 28 courses. We have what's called the Graduate Diploma in Architecture, which is 3 studios and 5 online courses. But this is the one I think that will be most interest to people in Lesotho, which is our post-diploma route. Now, in the post-diploma route, if you already have a diploma in architectural technology, you get advanced standing and you don't have to do as many studios or take as many courses. And I'll talk about which courses in just a second. But just so you know, we work with all sorts of colleges across Canada. So we've got 17 agreements in place to help architectural technologists and technicians get into our program and get advanced standing. So what I've seen at the universities or at the universities and colleges in Lesotho would be very, very similar to this. So, but we are different. We actually want to serve those people who cannot attend university on a full-time basis. And over the years, we've served a wide variety of students, athletes, people with partners in the armed forces who move around regularly, remote communities, people who have to work, foreign trained architects, parents with small children, and no Canadian architecture school really serves this market. And over the years, and this is from 2014 to 2021, you can see that we've, at the Center for Architecture alone, has served students in 27 different countries. And so let's just zoom in. We've had students in, again, just in the Center for Architecture. I showed you before for the whole university, but we've right across the African continent. So we're hoping that the opportunity here is to create a bridging program, or really to discuss a bridging program, would prepare architectural technologists in Lesotho to apply to a Masters of Architecture program anywhere in the world. And that would look like something similar to the post-diploma route. When I was in Lesotho, I did manage to meet with people from Wits University, University of Johannesburg, and Tuts as well. So I know that there's some really good Masters of Architecture programs in South Africa, and that's one route. And what I'd like to do, depending on how this meeting turns out, is start to talk about maybe talk to those universities to see if there's a way that we can make sure the bridging program is going to fit with the kind of people that they're looking for. So this is our Bachelor of Science of Architecture, and these are all the courses that you would take. And there's various streams of design, professional communications, theory, art, history, and technical. And if you are if you're one of those architectural technologists who have an articulation agreement with Athabasca, then typically you'll get transfer credit for these courses. So you can see the number of courses there. It's about 30 to 36 credits depending on your program. So the ones that I've outlined in red here, you don't have to take if you've already got an architectural technology diploma, and it's one of those ones that's been approved with Athabasca in order to get this kind of route going. But this will give you an idea of what's involved. So what's the advantages of doing this? Um, well, students can stay in their home communities in Lesotho, and you could work full or part-time while you're studying with us. And we also, this is probably important because um, it's very difficult to get into a Master's of Architecture program. One of the universities in Canada had 700 applicants for just 30 spots. So we've had about a 72% success rate of placing our graduates from our program into architecture programs around the world. And when I say 72%, we don't graduate a huge number of people in any given year because everybody's working at their own pace. But the ones that do graduate are in very, very good shape to get in. That success rate is actually very, very high because there's so much competition to get in. But there are disadvantages to doing things online. It's time consuming and it's not for everyone. If you're not kind of motivated to manage your own time, you might find it difficult. And it is expensive. I'll talk about the cost in a minute. But as I say, it's very difficult to get into a master's program, no matter where you study or what you do. Yeah, it's tough. So let's talk about tuition for a minute. Um, Daniela was kind enough to share some facts and figures with me. So we can see there what the cost is in Rand and in Canadian dollars at Pretoria and at Nelson Mandela. And as you can see, compared to that, our courses are very, very expensive. So a full year is like 4 times more at Athabasca for an international student than it would be at South African University. So I want to talk about that though, and how we might address that. But the other thing that I try to share this with students, no matter where they are, the other costs are also they're extensive. You can see here it basically more than doubles. So what again, Daniela was very kind to share these numbers with me, but the National Manpower Development Secretariat in Lesotho, these are the kinds of bursaries and scholarships that they give out. And that really, I did the calculations, and that's about 73,000 Rand, which is another, which almost doubles the cost in comparison to tuition. So yeah, we got to figure out how we might make this work. But how would it work? Um, well, in this scenario, people would take online courses and pace studios, and I've used the words asynchronous and synchronous, and that's a fancy word for synchronous. Really just mean at the same time. So in our studios, everybody meets at the same time, and it's a pace thing where each week you're expected to do a certain amount of work. Asynchronous means, of course, it's not at the same time. It's self-paced. You work at your own pace. You don't work with others, but you work on online courses. And those courses, this is what one of them looks like. This is our history course. And so it's a website. You go there, you click on the various things in order to get your assignments, and you upload your assignment to the same website, and they're marked online, and you get feedback via email, and you're in contact with an academic expert throughout in order to do your assignments. But we also try to link these courses into our design studios. Design studios are key, but we try to connect them to some of these courses so that in our structures course, you analyze a building that you've done in one of your studios. And in our building envelope course, you provide an envelope for one of the buildings you're designing in one of our studios. We're also trying some new experiments. This is just one course, our computer-aided design course, where we have a kind of an interface like this, and you click on the project room and you go to that project. It's just a different way of doing things and to create new interfaces. Given that we're all on Zoom, I don't need to explain how Zoom works to everybody, but we do find it is a great tool for sharing the work, as you can see in this studio, but also for working with students so that we can mark up their designs, because the markup tools in Zoom are very, very good. But we also use a variety of other apps like Padlet to share resources. Every studio has a Padlet board. Sometimes we use it. This is working with Tech Monterrey in Mexico. We did a joint studio with them, and we use Padlet to do an icebreaker where everybody provides a little video of themselves. People conceptualize with Miro, and they use Slack for some of the more uh, instant communications between people within the studio. This is one for ADST 350, one of our studios. The other thing that we have is open educational resources, and so I'm just going to take a little drink for a sec. On our website, there's also a whole series of open educational resources, which anybody can access for free, and you can download them if you want. But they include things like this about loads on buildings. So this is an OER that you can download. We also have a student gallery where you can go and see what work has been done in the studio before and show things off. If you might remember that we had a global studio, RAIC was part of it, and we have a YouTube channel. Again, it's freely available, and you can look at any of these videos. The one I wanted to draw your attention to is the one on architectural portfolio workshop, because you'll find that creating your portfolio is going to be a critical career move for you, and it can make the difference between whether or not you get into the architecture school that you want to. So portfolio development is very important. There's a big long video all about it. So the way we deliver all of this, though, is, everybody has their own home offices and their desktop and their even tablets and smartphones. And then we're putting equipment now online that we want to share with people. And we also have some location-based resources where you can send files to. And then we also distribute things sort of across the country. But the key thing is this big cloud of stuff that's happening here. So we have all of these things going on, and a lot of it happens in the cloud. And we connect things in. And of all this equipment, I'm in the process of putting equipment together. The only things that we're missing at the moment are these three items. And I'm very pleased to announce that we're making plans within the next fiscal year to make an innovative online but connected makerspace in the town of Athabasca where these things would be available. So if we, my hope is that we're coming again this year to Lesotho, and that we could bring some of this equipment with us to do things like scan entire buildings. So one of the things that is, what about next steps? So really the idea today is there interest in this idea? Is there enough interest to create a cohort of 30 students? And I need to discuss it more at Athabasca, because I'd like to see the tuition fees reduced so that it's a very good bargain for everybody. And I haven't discussed it with others in Lesotho or South Africa. And then, of course, it has to be approved through the MDS in order to get the kind of bursaries for people. So it's a process, and it's going to take a while. In terms of the future, though, I just want to wrap up by talking about a little bit about where the future of this is going. We're working on a micro-credential in energy efficiency for the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, and we're using it as a tool to explore some of these ideas. So we're trying to provide learners with an understanding of the many dimensions of energy efficiency, and we want to explore it through a new building on the Athabasca University campus. Now, the building doesn't exist. We've created a simulation of this building, and in Twinmotion, you can do incredible things like this, created this, but that's a pretty close representation of the Athabasca campus, at least during the summer. And the building, of course, doesn't exist, but we use it to teach about energy efficiency by exploring the building itself. Twinmotion, by the way, is, I think it's still free, but it is a very, very powerful tool, and can lend itself to some really interesting kind of renderings. So let me just talk a little bit. Oh, move along here. We're trying to do an integrated. So in the energy efficiency micro-credential, there's 4 modules, and you play a different role in each of those modules. In one, you're the architect, and another, the engineer. And each module has a number of learning objects. I'll talk about what those are in a second. But we also use this as a means of teaching ethics, equity, diversity, and inclusion, health and safety, and team building. Energy efficiency is much, much more than just a technical subject, and it does involve all of these things. So in one of the modules, what we do is we set the problem. This new community center, the one that you just saw, it's performing its half its predicted level of energy efficiency. And so we have the simulated building in twin motion learning units from D55 and artificial intelligence as well. So the learner interacts with the simulated building, the artificial intelligences, and the learning units to figure out what went wrong with the building. And so in this one, you're playing the role of facilities manager. Every other role is played by artificial intelligence. And at the end, the learner is provided with an assessment of their work. Now, learning objects or learning units, these are things like, thermal imaging or blower door tests or other kinds of things. But what it looks like is this when this is what you see when you're talking to Nick, and Nick is an artificial intelligence, and he's asked you some questions about embodied carbon. You can tell that it's a human being in the loop because they're typing very badly, as a matter of fact. But so they're sending this to Nick, and it takes a little longer than that. But he says, okay, but he wants you to do more. He wants you to provide more. So uh, the learner is typing this in. And again, it's sent off. And then at the end of your experience, you get this summary of what you did or what you didn't do. So it's a little bit early, but all of this feedback that you're seeing right now is provided by the system itself um, and the artificial intelligence. So this is a revolution, and it's going to be profound. The American Navy and the Bill Gates and the Melinda Gates Foundation, they found that if the trainee was working with a digital tutor, they learned more in 16 weeks than others had in 15 years. That's an incredible improvement, and it means that people like me will soon be out of work because this is really tremendous kinds of improvements. But we're seeing an entire revolution in the way we do things. This is some work by the Living Architecture Systems Group based in Canada. Athabasca is part of this group. It's mainly around Philip Beasley's work, but this is some incredible kinds of interactive spaces that respond to users in terms of light and sound and even moisture. So when we start to think about combining things like artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things and building information modeling, we start to see that we're talking about whole different kinds of buildings, buildings that remember, buildings that are databases, and buildings that learn, buildings that could teach actually as well. And this is one of the concepts about digital twins. And so all these technologies come together. But when you put them all together, we're starting to talk about buildings. I know this sounds far-fetched, but that are intelligent and even conscious entities that work with you. But it's kind of a dangerous environment as well. This is Microsoft's vision of how digital twins might work. And what worries me is, of course, is that no government, no corporation, in fact, nobody should have this amount of information about people. It's got to be done in a manner that protects us all. And it can be done that way. Um, Rashad Newsom is a Los Angeles-based artist, and he created an AI app. This is called Being, and it's to help the Black community in the United States deal with the trauma of racism. So we can use AI for many different purposes, and we can use AI to do not just things that are about control and about greed, but rather things that are positive too. So the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is we're now moving towards creating a Masters of Architecture program, um, which will have some more studios, but it'll be low residency, so people will actually come to Athabasca and do things together at the start of the program, but then go back to their home countries or wherever they live to do the rest of their studies. And the key components of this are expanding our graduate diploma in architecture, but really it'll be 60 credits in total. There will be a low residency component at the beginning of the program, and it will be self-paced. And it'll include things like virtual co-ops, work integrated learning with artificial intelligences. And our principles here are of course regenerative design, but also equity, diversity, and inclusion. We've been developing mentor networks and global experiences like the one in Lesotho, and also student developed curriculum and open educational resources. But it is very much project-based, and this is what it'll look like. Okay, so we have a design stream, and it does have that low residency. We have a professional practice stream, which includes a virtual co-op with artificial intelligences. We have a communications stream. We have a specific course on regenerative design. And we also are looking at equity in design as a specific course. And of course, the technical stream. So this new master's, it will have a variety of new courses, old courses put together in order to do something different. So this is a couple of years down the line as we're putting it all together. But this would be an option too for people who would like to stay in Lesotho but get a master's degree from. And as I say, our programs are very, very high quality. So Chris asked to make sure that I provided information about if you want more, and I'll try and put these links into the chat as well. But really, if you just Google Athabasca University, you can find us. And the other thing I just wanted to say was thank you very much. And I am going to do a whole bunch of things here. I'm going to stop sharing and also make stop being the host as well. So let's see if I can do all of these things at once. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to make Rise the host. There we go. Okay, I have changed the host, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Well, thank you so much for that presentation, Doctor. I do have a few questions that I would like to pass by you. Maybe the first question would be actually, sorry about that. The first question would be what is the cost? I heard you briefly just touching on this. Maybe if you can go back there a bit. What is the cost of courses, maybe, and on average for a postgraduate qualification at Athabasca University in architecture?
Sure. Let me get to. I just want to find so I give you the right information. Just take me a second to find it here. There we go. Okay. Now, a 3-credit course for an international student in our Bachelor of Science of Architecture is about $1,600 Canadian. So that's very expensive. Now, if you took 10 of those courses a year, that would be about $16,000 Canadian, or about 22,000 Lati. I think so.
Okay.
It is pricey, and that's why we're trying to get a change to see if there was a group of students from Lesotho who wanted to do this. I would go back to the administration at Athabasca University and say, well, there's this number of students who would like to take these courses. Can we give them a deal?
All right.
So
all
that's
right.
So it's expensive, but we may be able to change it a little bit.
All right. Another question would be because this is a self-paced program, if I got that correct. What's the average time that a student may take in
That's a
getting their qualification?
Yeah. I have had students who race through the program and do it in just over 2 years, but it would take reasonably, it would take about 3 years to do. But the beauty of it is, if you need more time than that, you can have it. So we try and be as flexible as possible. Now, some people like it that we have 3 studios that you can take a year. Most universities just have you could take a studio in the fall and a studio in the spring, but we have a summer session as well. So through very, very quickly.
All right. I think that's quite clear. Another question, maybe, what what is the success rate of Athabasca University, particularly in the architecture
Yeah.
department?
This is why I was saying that you have to be motivated. A lot of people start the program and don't finish. So we basically every year we have like 2 or 3 graduates. Our numbers, just so you know, our numbers are very, very funny. I said we have 700 unique students that we serve every year, but some of those are coming in to take just one course. They may even be with a different university, but they take a course with us because maybe they failed their structures course or they need a mechanical course. So they take one course with us and then they go. So and then we also have a lot of people from different faculties at Athabasca who take courses with us as well. So it's we only graduate a few people every year. And so we have a high attrition rate, and that's important to know as well. People do, particularly, people do drop out of universities, but um, in online courses, there's an even higher rate of people dropping out. And I'm sorry, I don't have the exact numbers on that. But what I can say is if you do complete our Bachelor of Science of Architecture, if you do this, what we're seeing is that people who complete it have a very good chance of getting into a master's program. We've placed people in master's programs across Canada, but also in the United States and in Europe as well. So it's tough, but if you make it through, you do have a very good credential that will help you.
All right, Doc. You mentioned briefly about AI, and having seen the years come by and with the incoming of AI, has how has it impacted the architecture faculty at Athabasca University?
Well, we're just really trying to figure that out right now, um, exactly what the impact is going to be. We're trying to be, rather than paranoid, rather than be afraid of artificial intelligence, we're trying to figure out ways that we can start to use it in a manner that really helps people acquire skills about critical thinking. So one of the things though, and this is one of my own kind of research areas or things that I'm very interested in, is I actually think that people should own their own artificial intelligences so that when you start the school system, for example, you would have an artificial intelligence that works with you and grows with you and learns with you. The reason I say this is if all the AIs are controlled, are things that you subscribe to through Microsoft or Google or Facebook, then there really won't be any jobs left for any of us. So what I'm proposing is that if people own their own AIs, that when they graduate, companies hire both the person and the AI. And that's the only way that we're going to have meaningful work in the future, because that some developer out there has already got the idea that, well, why can't I just have an AI design the entire building. It'll be perfect in terms of building codes. I'll know exactly what it is on budget and everything else. That's probably not true, but they can imagine that. And what do I need architects for at all? And I thought this would take decades to arrive, but it's going to be here very, very soon. So we should all be aware of AI, and we should all be thinking carefully about how we're going to react to it. And our governments really need to step up to protect us and our jobs in order to make sure that there's some meaningful work left for human beings.
All clear, Doc. Just so that our participants are clear, especially Basotho students who may have interest to enroll at Athabasca University, how do they get more information so that they can read up and be more clear, maybe with some things that we may have left behind?
Yes, that's a very good question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the into the chat. I'm going to put the, oops, I've got to escape from this. Hold on. I'm going to put into the chat the URL for Athabasca University and for the Center for Architecture. This the okay, there we go. Okay, so Athabasca first, and let's put that into the chat. And there's I'm also happy to talk to people. So there's Athabasca, and here comes the Center for Architecture. And I'll type in my my email address as well. Okay, that's there, and that's gone. So yeah, I'm always happy to answer questions for people, and I know some of the people who we worked with when we were in Lesotho. I'm happy to hear from anybody.
I see that some of the questions that are being asked, you had already touched on them, such as how many students does Athabasca University have from Africa, and as well as which countries and which course do they do? So I think you touched a bit on that, but you can just highlight it a bit for
Yeah,
someone who didn't get it.
yeah. We've had uh, as I say, Athabasca has coverage in 84 countries around the world, and it's not huge, but it is a significant kind of number of people in different countries. The Center for Architecture, of course, has fewer, but we've had people take our professional practice courses and also even our design studios. Last semester, we had a student from Cairo who was, it was much different time there, but they were logging into our design studios. I think it was probably very early in the morning, but we've had people take design studios from Seoul, South Korea as well. So it's all over the world, and people are doing incredible things these days working together. So there is a lot of opportunity in terms of what's going on, but we hope that maybe we can do more. Certainly, everybody who participated in the Lesotho trip, um, they just loved it entirely. We had Rise organized such an extraordinary a series of events for us that it was really people were calling it the trip of a lifetime. We'll be coming back again in the fall of this year, but we want to figure out a way to do it more, and also to figure out ways to do other exchanges so people can move back and forth around the world. I think this is really important that we start to share the stuff that we're doing and with each other and collaborate. So my hoping is that we 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 do have students throughout Africa, but we'd like to do more. We'd like to do more different kinds of activities as well. We don't have
I
any
think
students from,
all right,
sorry,
Doc, continue.
we don't have any students from Lesotho at the moment, but we'd love that to change.
hopefully it's coming. Hopefully it's coming now that you've shared all this information. And thank you so much also for availing yourself through your email address so that those who may have a few more questions even beyond this session can reach out to you. That is really highly appreciated. Um, Doug, I don't know if there's more that you'd like to share as we're about to wrap it up because I see we've run out of questions.
No, I think that's fine. But if questions do occur to anyone, please feel free to drop me a line.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Doc. And we really, really appreciate your time. I know because of time zones, we had to wake you up a lot earlier, actually. But we really appreciate your time and looking forward to seeing you once again later, maybe this year or even next year.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris, and thank you to all of you for attending this afternoon and where you are. But take care, everybody.
And once again, thanks to Athabasca University as well. I mean, we really appreciate even you guys coming to Lesotho last year and being such amazing guests.
As I say, the students loved it. It was an extraordinary experience. So thank you to Rise for all of that. And I wish everybody the best of luck, and particularly to Rise to keep doing the things that you're doing.
All right. Apart from the information that Doc shared on via the chat, there was also a survey that we've sent through via the chat. So I may ask all our participants to go through that survey so that we get their feedback on how was the session, if they enjoyed the session, and what we can do next time to improve on our webinar sessions. Apart from that, please do join us again. Next month, we are having a lecture. The lecture will be held at Lincoln Queen on the 22nd of March. This will be spearheaded by Mr. Peter Rickaby, and he will be talking about understanding and managing moisture risks in buildings. So that's another session that you don't want to miss. We'll make sure that we share also this session with everyone who had registered, who was part of this session. We'll make sure that we share it so that you can be able to access it. Otherwise, you can also make sure that you follow us on our social media, that is Rise International on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We are also on LinkedIn as well as on YouTube, where you will find also this session uploaded there. Apart from that, make sure that you answer the survey. Really, really appreciate everyone. Thank you for joining us. Until next month, thank you once again, Doc.
Okay, well, thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.